Hello and welcome back for Game 5, where TSM will be facing off against the Golden Guardians. Let's take a look at the starting rosters. Selecting blue side, it's TSM. They've got Haunter in the top lane, Grig in the jungle, Bjergsen at mid with Sven and Mithy bot lane and support, head coach Lustboy and strategic coach Song.
And going against them on the red side, it's the Golden Guardians. In the top lane, it's Lorlo. In the jungle, Contracts. Mid is Mickey. Bot is definitely with support Matt, and head coach Tyler with strategic coach Xpecial on stage.
Now, Bjergsen put it best after TSM's 0-2 result last week. If the team is going to turn their split around, that turnaround needs to be now.
Last week, TSM kind of lost in the most classic TSM way possible. They had all these late game comfort picks, but sat back for way too long, and they eventually lost due to their inactivity.
We'll see if they can reverse those fortunes today versus Golden Guardians, whose slow rise hit a bit of a speed bump last week.
Yeah, last week was an interesting week for Golden Guardians and their fans, because all 0-2 weeks can be tough, but Golden Guardians had significant leads in both of the games that they lost. Versus Team Liquid, they had built up a 3K gold lead very early on with the Heimerdinger Fiddlesticks bottom lane, but the victory slipped away from them around 30 minutes. And their loss versus Optic came off the back of a split push Yorick from Dokla, where they were up 7,000 gold at the time that they lost the game. Which is to point out that Golden Guardians could have easily won either of those games and had a 2-0 week, and that's something that shouldn't shake them too hard. And if they need to tighten up their late game a little bit, that's how they bounce back here against TSM, which likes to go late game.
It's one of those kinds of losses where if you just get stomped in a game, you have to look and investigate and find out where did it all go wrong. In a game where you were ahead for a significant portion, you can break that down and say, okay, the first part went fantastically. We just have these issues with the mid and late. We can fix those now and see if maybe that focus can bring us back where we want to be, especially for a team like Golden Guardians that has been doing so much better in summer than they were in spring. Checking in on the bans now, I am already going to tell you, Zyrene, I like that TSM has adapted. So many times I see these cookie cutter bans in draft, like people are going to Christmas with grandma, just breaking out every different shape of cookie cutter you can find. But TSM decided, no, they're good at Heimerdinger, we should ban Heimerdinger. I like that. They'll ban the Kindred and the Morgana as well, while Golden Guardians take out the Talia, the Nocturne, and the Aatrox.
Yeah, and that means Golden Guardians are going to have to go to something that's a little more, I would say, standard here. The Heimerdinger Fiddlesticks had been working wonders for them in terms of getting leads in games. The last time that they had to go a little bit more standard, it wasn't too pretty for them. Right now, Golden Guardians are on a 3-game losing streak from Fox, Liquid, and Optic, but like we said, leads in the early parts of the game for them. It's just, they could have easily actually been 7-5 instead of 5-7. So TSM tied with Golden Guardians with a sub-500 record right now, and like you said, they're making those adjustments saying, no Heimerdinger. We're not even going to give them the chance to have that really dominant bottom lane. And we see that Tahm Kench is kind of what's locked in for Matt here, which I would say is a sigh of relief for TSM because they don't have to deal with this oppressive bottom lane.
At the same time, TSM's first pickup was the Zoe. Tahm Kench is great at denying some of the ridiculous pick potential that champion has. Somebody gets sleepy, all of a sudden you gobble them up. She's not able to capitalize on that.
And something that I want to see here from Golden Guardians is Mickey on something that's going to blast Bjergsen in the mid lane on Zoe. I'm thinking LeBlanc, I'm thinking Aurelia, something that really does take it to this kind of trickster with an assassin that actually has true mobility versus the kind of pseudo mobility, the temporary displacement. If he goes with something like the Rise, that's more of a standard team fighting kind of rotation pick here, and that's not Mickey doubling down on something like the assassin or the counter pick.
Okay,
wait for it.
They will. Yeah, they'll wait for it. I like that. Going with the Varus instead. They pick up a traditional strong laner instead of the new age strong laner in the Heimerdinger that was banned away. TSM grabbed the Braum and the Ezreal for their bottom lane of Sven and Mithy.
Yep, when things are looking dire, Sven will turn to the Ezreal just like last split. He lost his previous game on Ezreal, the FlyQuest, but this one, he's trying to make it be a little different here. Ezreal Braum is quite a strong bottom lane, but the Tahm Kench Varus. Varus has a lot of damage, whether it's the lethality or the lethal tempo build with attack speed, and the protection that Matt will provide him is kind of the big one that seals the deal here, right? Low mobility, you want to have something that can save you.
And TSM will now ban out some of those champions that can do so well into Zoe. Yasuo, one of those that when you throw up the wind wall, this champion who's all about insta-giving you with long-range projectiles, wind wall does a wonderful job at shutting that down. He's also one of those champs like you talked about that can go so aggro on her in lane. Banning that away means Bjergsen won't have to worry about that as the Golden Guardians decide to take Gangplank off the table. They don't want to have Hanser on one of those big bank carries. They'll make sure that he can't use that one this game, as well as getting rid of the Rumble.
The Rumble as well, a champion that seems to have been showing up more in scrims because it got a buff to the ultimate and some changes, but tanks, I think, might be the name of the game here for TSM and Golden Guardians, because the Trundle locked in, you kind of want to force them to play a tank top laner, steal some resists instead of having them play a GP or Rumble. Makes sense. There's a LeBlanc ban. I'm saddened because I want to see Mickey on that into the Zoe. It's kind of the meta counter pick. Aurelia is also up there in terms of counter picks, but you have to be very practiced on Aurelia to kind of make her work in her weakened state.
It looks like they will go back to the Rise they were thinking about earlier. We saw them hover that one for a significant amount of time before locking in the Varus, and now they will make that lock in now for Golden Guardians.
Which ends up making it that if you were going to go with the Rise anyway, it's better to just lock in the Varus, have them tax 2 bans, and then pick the Rise. So Golden Guardians in terms of draft order, that would make sense unless they were really looking at something like a LeBlanc counter.
I feel like these are just bait hovers.
Yes, they are. Absolutely. The Dr. Mundo, Cho'Gath, those are kind of what you're expecting here for Golden Guardians and Lorlo in the top lane. So the Gnar makes a decent amount of sense here for Hanser, but Lorlo could play something like the Camille into it.
Final pick for TSM. What'll it be? Still need a jungler. The Gragas seems to be what they're leaning towards, and Grig will be piloting that one this game.
Yep, Gragas gives you versatility in disengage and engage, so it makes it so that when you have a poke composition that has a Zoe and an Ezreal in it and a Braum.
This team is hard to initiate on.
Yeah, it's hard to initiate on, which means if Gnar gets ahead, turns into a, oh, I like that. Okay. Gnar turns into kind of a split pusher, and then everybody else can disengage, but another counter pick besides Yasuo, besides playing like the Camille into the Gnar, the Kennen is one that had popped up as well. We saw Flame play at the AP Kennen. It's gained a lot of traction, especially over in Korea, as a really good team fighting top laner here.
We saw, for anybody who might have missed it, there was a play, I think it was earlier this week, from Thal, who made an immaculate flank on the Kennen and managed to catch out multiple people in one of the games in the LCK. And that's kind of the dream for Kennen, that giant slicing maelstrom into multiple people to set up the team fight potential, because if you do get a team fight where you catch a bunch of TSM in that slicing maelstrom and then you can follow it up with the Varus and the Rise, Golden Guardians are packing damage, Irene.
Oh yeah, and a Kennen can pretty much slice a team completely up. Once you get on something like the Zoe or the Ezreal, and you can actually lock them down very quickly. Not to mention it is actually lane dominant here into the Gnar. It does a great job, in Golden Guardians, they're constantly, I wouldn't say innovating, but they're constantly throwing those curveballs. The Heimerdinger being one of the first to practice it. The Kennen here being kind of the second person to bring it out in the NALCS. It's really kind of making it hard to prepare for this type of team.
At the same time, though, there are so many disengages on TSM. Golden Guardians has to make sure they're coordinated. They have to make sure that everyone's on the same page when they go for this initiation, because if you botch it, if you try to go in and the Kennen can't quite find the flank he needs, or maybe definitely whiffs the chains of corruption, you're just at the mercy of Zoe and Ezreal.
Yep, and one of the worst things to play against as the Kennen is a Gragas. Ult you out, he'll body slam you, ult you out almost every time. Having that long range makes it, or long range disengage makes it very difficult to actually get in. And Lorlo, it's gonna actually not be a Kennen that's focused on the AP build. It looks like he's got press the attack and he's going to go for damage here in flat AD and potentially going for an attack speed build. So this will be more of an AD on-hit Kennen. And from Deathly's look, it looks like it's going to be a Poke Varus to kind of match the Zoe and the Ezreal.
We have seen Poke Varus a couple of times already today. He didn't exactly have the effect that the teams were hoping for from him. It turned into more of one of those big scrappy type of team fight games where Poke Varus doesn't really shine, as Mickey forced to flash very early. TSM getting a free summoner spell from the Golden Guardians mid lane.
Off of some early aggression there, and that's Mithy landing a Q. And you can see they're just walking up, making sure that they can get these wards down and control that area. But the flash onto Mickey. Bjergsen, he's been kind of invisible this split. It hasn't been a split where people are even talking about him as one of the strongest mid laners.
All right, let's go ahead and check in. We got a sideline report with Avali and Xpecial now that the draft is completed.
Thanks, guys. Xpecial making his return to the stage as the strategic coach for Golden Guardians. How did having you on stage help in today's draft?
So most of my job is to prep the main coach and the rest of the players before the game. So on stage, I don't have to do as much, just little reminders for the guys and just, you know, give them good luck.
Anything to look out for from TSM today?
Hopefully they don't start the resurgence today. That's my goal. And honestly, our guys are playing well, so I'm just gonna root for them and they're playing well.
Thank you and best of luck. Back to you guys.
We saw him smiling a whole bunch on stage. It looked like he was pretty much only chiming in when he had to, and it looked like he was just upping the spirits of the team simultaneously. But hold on, Greg. Gonna see Contracts trying to sneak this one away, but he's gonna say TY for leash because Grig has smite and Contracts doesn't.
It's pretty easy, but is Grig aware of that?
Probably not.
To not be because of the fact that he's being
wouldn't
careful about Contracts trying to steal that one away. Blue's gonna be top very low, but there you go. Take a swig, bonk the blue. Easy buff there for Grig.
Yep, and that means that the Scuttle Crab, because Bjergsen's here and Mickey has no flash, is probably gonna go over.
Both these guys are going to have smite up around the same time here as well.
Ooh. Yeah, it's the top priority. It's the fact that the Kennen is actually able to push the Gnar out, and that the Gnar turned Mega, so.
But Grig will be able to go to the bottom side and grab the other Scuttle Crab, so it's not like the world is ending for him just yet. It's not like you lost both crabs.
Yeah, that's true. I hate that when that happens, though.
Losing both crabs is a GG go next type of experience.
Oh, wait, they're both pinging on it. Contract's gonna get there
He
first.
will lose both crabs.
Yeah, he will. He'll lose both crabs. Okay, but I don't think it's as extreme as what you said with the GG go next.
This is the jungling mentality. This is how you jungle. You've got it. It's all
your
about
mentality.
the crabs.
It makes a lot of sense.
We can't all have strong mentals, Irene. Bjergsen getting a nice drowsy down onto Mickey. Finds quite a lot of burst there.
And remember, Mickey doesn't have flash, so next bubble that lands, Mickey's gonna have to burn that cleanse and get out. Or it could be a body slam flash here from Grig to set up Bjergsen.
If Grig makes this one happen, could be an easy kill. Contract's also going to be hanging around here. Bjergsen wants to find some damage. Paddlestar not going to find the mark. Drowsy does go through. Grig thinks about it, but as soon as he sees Contracts, those thoughts stop.
Yep. Probably because the Trundle will do a little bit better into the Gragas if they actually get up close. Gragas will do a little bit better, though, if they keep themselves in range. And Matt, ooh, he's going to gobble Mithy.
The Devour brings Mithy closer to the rest of the Golden Guardian squad on the bottom side, with Deftly there to provide some damage. However, if he still has enough to get himself out of that one.
That's way better for Deftly and Matt. They get to keep those potions going. And it's actually interesting because we've seen Doran's Blades, we've seen Doran's Shields, Rings, etc. It's a corrupting potion start for Deftly in the bottom lane. He is all about sustain and just winning the lane phase. And that's kind of been Matt and Deftly's MO all split. They've been playing for lane over and over again. The mages kind of speak to that, just having this dominant bottom lane with Corrupting Potion as well as the Varus and the Comet. They're going for lane priority, and it's been working out for them all split long.
Yeah, they've got the 36 to 26 CS advantage so far. They're taking control of the lane.
He's got 2 potions left, too. A lot of poke can come from that.
And Grig is just constantly trying to force encounters with Contracts. He wants to PvP
He's got
early
Smite
in the
over
jungle.
him, too.
He wants to steal that one away. Contracts will be taken down rather low. And Grig says, all right, now I can take the rest of these Krugs for myself. Throws down the barrel, and he'll farm up that extra little bit of gold.
Yeah, when you play to your lanes that have priority or have like winning matchups or summoner spell advantage, then you can do things like this and keep the jungler tracked. Because when your lanes are shoving, all you really need to do as a jungler is not like gank, but find the enemy jungler. It's what Tracker's Knife used to do when advantage is. You used to just put it down and just make it so the enemy jungler is always spotted and can't do anything on the winning side of the map, which made you kind of win harder. So he's just tracking the enemy jungler, keeping Contracts busy so he can't try to even the game up in terms of summoner spells.
Oh, Bjergsen's about to get a lot of damage out of that Paddle Star. Every Sleepy Trouble bubble that lands is trouble indeed for Mickey, who does have his flash back up now. Clin's still available too, but when you lose 2/3 of your health like that from a single encounter, it's still just so rough to deal with this Bjergsen zone.
Yeah, Mickey, like you said, has the flash, has the cleanse, has the tear. He's out of potions already. Ooh. The Tom Kench assist is always great. Good exhaust there to land the bubble, and that forces the cleanse.
Mickey recognized he was Going to be taken either low or just completely out if he did get hit by another maximum range paddle star. Bjergsen with the electric, he could have had a lot of extra damage to pile onto that one here too. TSM up a couple hundred gold early on into this game just from the passive advantages they built themselves in the lanes. You can see the Gnar slightly winning in terms of farm up there in the top side. Bjergsen one ahead in mid lane, but that's really not much worth commenting about. But TSM is a team that, I mean, Bjergsen said it best in that tweet that we looked at before the game started. If they want to turn things around, if they want to be the team that everyone expects them to be, this team that has built their brand and their legacy on being the best in the NALCS, it's time to flip that switch.
Oh, this is a feels bad for junglers type game here. Contracts base deck.
Oh, Contracts gets a little bit too close.
Oh
Wants to go
my
for the blast
God.
code. If he gets out of
Bjergsen
it.
flash, Bjergsen flash.
Can they still manage to make this one happen? It's first blood over to Bjergsen, but it's still going to be 1-for-1, jungler for jungler. Mickey wants to make the collapse here onto Bjergsen as well. Lorlo expended both summoner spells as well as ulti to make that fight happen. They won't be able to chase Bjergsen down, but they'll settle for the 1-for-1. Rune Prison down onto Bjergsen. Sleepy Trouble Bubble goes through.
Oh. I was saying it feels bad for junglers in this game. I meant it was because he was the same level as the support, but it's even worse because both the junglers just die and don't get to cycle their jungle or anything during that time. It's like, I didn't mean it like that. They're both of them, you don't have to die like that, guys. Like, they're all fighting over this side of the map here. Contracts base checks, goes in, he gets the buff and levels up, but then Bjergsen picks up his flash afterwards, chases him down with it, and kills him with it. And then Lorlo comes through after using the flash ultimate and gets the kill onto Grig there. And so junglers are sitting at like level 4, they're same level as their support. It's like really far behind, but they're gonna start catching up once they get to cycle their jungle and once kind of this mayhem slows down, because invading at this part in the game, when you don't have that vision, you really do have to go off advantage. People get stronger and stronger with items, and it really does become a little bit more difficult to kind of keep doing that. Early in the game, it's small incremental advantages, and there isn't as much wave clear, etc. So, oh.
Not quite what you were looking for with the Mega Gnar. Hits Lorlo for about 100 damage, not much more, but you talk about people getting stronger, Zyrene. Worth noting, both those kills went over to the mid laners in that fight in the jungle. So the guys that you need that extra money on to make sure that they're getting those big power spikes on time are exactly the guys that received it today. Bjergsen on the Zoe, has the Lost Chapter, so he'll be able to keep that spamming up the mid lane. As Contract tries to clear out some vision, gets into a fight one-on-one with Grig, and one-on-one-ing Trundle is not something many champions can do. Contract now backing himself away. Did he step on the trap there at the very end as Vithy now comes up here as well? TSM finds their collapse and punishes Golden Guardians.
I don't know what to say about that one. The
Zoe.
Yeah. It was it was fading away, and it just like he stuck his toe in it. We'll see what happened there, because
I didn't see it still on the ground.
Well,
quite honestly, I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, it fades out, and then there's still like I want to say like a 1/10 of a second where the thing's no longer there, and you can still like pick it up. Like it just looks a little weird because you think it's fading and it's no longer active, but as it's fading, you can still pick it up. So let's see here.
Okay.
It's like, doop, doop. Yeah. That was even before it started to fade too. So that's actually even stranger. So he walked into it, trying to dodge, and got himself killed.
Stepped a little bit too close. Unlucky for the Golden Guardians, as now they find themselves down 1-2, about a 1,000 gold deficit between them and TSM, and Bjergsen again contributing to these kills. It was Mithy who got the credit on the last one, so not really the guy that you want to set up with the extra early economy influx, but hey, getting the kill is exactly what TSM wants to do. One of the biggest criticisms for this team has been, when are they going to do something?
Early, especially.
Yeah, this is a team that seems to just wait to scale, and then we're good enough players, we're a good enough team that will win in the late game, and that hasn't been enough lately. The idea of just not having someone to say go is plaguing this team.
Yeah, and for that kill in particular, that was one where that looked pretty, I would say, classic TSM, where they're reactive, because that was Contracts invading with level 6, pushing Grig out, and then they countered off Bjergsen's pressure. So it was kind of playing around mid lane, classic TSM from old, and playing reactive. You try to make a move, they're just stronger, and then they collapse. But it was a big misstep from Contracts at the same time. But I like what you said about them being active, because that invade is what kind of prompted everything, because Contracts would have had his flash if it wasn't for the earlier invade.
And I mean, it looked like it was going okay for Contracts. Obviously, he was bonking Grig pretty hard in that 1-versus-1, but not really any real kill potential there as we talk about kill potential.
I love that where you're just saying, all right, use the cleanse. I dare you. And they're like, no, I'm not going to use the cleanse. And they're stubborn. They're like, well, then you got a back bar. Goodbye. See ya. Yeah, that's kind of the issue with Zoe and cleanse is you don't always know exactly how much damage you're going to be taking. And the Raptor will interrupt it. Raptor actually unsleeps you.
But the damage, the Raptor will not save you. The Raptor can only do so much.
No, I mean, maybe you could block for your buddy, but nope.
I don't know. He was pretty close to that Raptor. I think he was still going to get a Padlin, even if the Raptor was a little bit in front of it.
That's true. AoE, redemption here on Bjergsen.
Calls it down just to use it like an extra artillery cannon. Hey, Mickey, welcome back to lane. That's a real nice health bar you got there, but I'm going to need to mess with it a little bit.
Oh, my God. Yeah, and Bjergsen's at the point where he can actually just one-shot the caster minions, so he's at a really good point here for Zoe. Oh, my. Did he emote there? Is that...
Are they? Can they?
I'm pretty sure you can. Yes.
All right, Shelly summoned up in the mid lane, ready to charge, take down this tier 1 turret.
Hey.
And that is turret first blood for the side of TSM, up almost 2,000 gold.
2,000 gold, 12 minutes in off Bjergsen's pressure. It's something we haven't really been seeing too much this split, is Greg playing around mid lane. But it's how kind of TSM, I mean, for God's sakes, they're named Team Solo Mid. Like, playing around the mid lane is what you would expect, and it's been that way for, a few years. Just kind of fell off in the last year and a half, I would say. And now Bjergsen on this Zoe really kind of showing Mickey that he can't even get it in anywhere in this lane. They aren't playing to the side lane. They aren't playing to Mountain Drake or anything like that. This is ward up for mid. Look at all those wards around it and just play off of Bjergsen.
And this is, I want to go back to what you talked about in Champion Select, because you said you wanted to see a champion that can really pressure the Zoe. Something that can jump onto her, make it so she's got to really respect her positioning because she doesn't have a true escape mechanism. As bottom side, definitely looks to go in onto the TSM bottom lane. Clean's already going to be used. Mithy trying to get himself away from this one. Sven still going to be taken incredibly low, does get beaten down. Mickey grabbing the kill onto that one. Mithy falls now as well. Golden Guardian find a 2-for-0.
And if you can't go through Bjergsen, you got to go through the side lanes. They all go to the bottom side. That is 4 people strong. Lorlo on the top by himself, and Bjergsen's going to roam. Try and make something happen here. Misses that. Hits the Drowsy.
They want to try to make this be a big hit as Lorlo tries to go in with the slicing Maelstrom. But remember, this isn't an AP cannon. He's not going to have a stopwatch sitting there. He just gets deleted before he can find the stuns.
Yep, they do get the first turret, though. Or, sorry, second turret of the game. The first one went over to TSM in mid, and now they've cracked it open because Bjergsen had that mid lane down, and so he got to have priority on wherever he wanted to go. Right here, I like this from Mickey, though. This is actually a really good realm warp from him. Definitely with the arc flash, Mickey setting it up so Contracts and him both go. The Q and then the root after the E, just rooting for 2 seconds on Sven, so he can't really do anything there. And then they just pick up both of the guys in the bottom lane. And this was, Lorlo's gonna flash, he has to flash the bubble. It's very hard too. Something that, oh yeah, the flash R, you're not gonna stun him that quickly. It's an application every few ticks. Yep, no counter stun there, no time for the TP to come through. So Lorlo gets dropped, but I hear a Tom Kench. And now we see him.
They've got their bottom laner in some trouble. Sven's going to be taken very low, taken down immediately. Grig's still looking to finish off that Mountain Drake as Mithy has to flash over the wall. Did not blow the summoner spell in the previous fight. Still has it to escape this one as Mickey barely escapes in his own. Do we ever see Mickey when his health isn't at 300?
I feel like Mickey's in a horror movie right now.
Yeah. Except it's like you're watching a Jason movie and he takes off the hockey mask and it's just Zoe.
You're running around like, oh God, like is here? Like you see the pings on the map, like he could be here if the scrying orb comes out.
Yeah.
Oh God!
Instead of the stomp, stomp, stomp along the ground in the distance, you just hear a hop and a skip and a jump and some little twinkle noises.
This champion,
the true stuff of horror, as
absolutely.
Bjergsen has a 2-0-1 scoreline in this champion. He's participated in all 3 of the kills his team has found. He's got Luden's Echo and Sorcerer's Shoes, probably going to go for that Oblivion Orb next and just continue along that one-shot.
But the thing is, like Mickey, he's got Archangel Staff. He's almost at his Seraphs. Like he's got Merc Treads to kind of deal with the sleep, and he's got more magic resist coming. He's just like, just get this away from me. Just stop it.
Not gonna happen.
Trying to shut it down.
Not going to happen. This is, and again, okay, let's go back to that point that I mentioned earlier that you were talking about in Champion Select with, I want to see them pick something that really hard counters Zoe. Because against Zoe, you've got pretty much 2 options. You either pick something that counters her, or you just have a bad time. And Mickey didn't do the first one. So now he's having a bad time laning against Bjergsen. He's done a great job of keeping up in terms of farm, but as we've seen from their interactions, there's very little he can do.
Yeah, basically Bjergsen has the pressure, and Mickey has to recognize the opportunities where he goes, there's no way I can actually match him. I'm going to lose like half a minion wave, or I'm going to go roam before. Because if Mickey wants to make any proactive roams, he has to ditch the minion wave before Bjergsen gets to it, because Bjergsen's going to clear it.
Yeah.
So he has to kind of just give priority over and try to make a play happen. He's done that twice so far on the side lanes, and now they're trying to split the map. But they're trying to split the map now. So Golden Guardians are saying, we're going to 1-3-1 and get Mickey away from Bjergsen. Which I actually think is smart. Yeah.
That's perfect, because Mickey, again, I want to stress, against Bjergsen, he's not able to do anything. But when you look at the farm, it's very close. When you look at the scoreline, it's the same between these two. Despite the disadvantage of being in that unfavorable matchup, Mickey still found opportunity to make himself relevant in the game. And I think that's so important for a player who is sort of known for inconsistency before, who was known for both popping off and then also having games where he just couldn't get anything done. If you can take a player like that and give them consistency, that's when you really start to find that success.
Yeah, when he's able to recognize opportunities. Looks like they're trying to make something happen on Hauntzer. He has Flash, he has Leap.
Oh, that was right at the very end. They will force the Flash out with that one. Very good aim there from Deathly. Wow. On a skill shot that's honestly pretty well known for being one that whiffs a lot.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't know like the maximum range on it. It looks like it's going to go further than it does. So he gets him right with the tip there. They have to expend 2 ultimates for a Flash. It's definitely worth. But they give up pressure on the top side. Bjergsen is collapsing as well with a cleanse. There's 4 people strong in the top side. They're saying Mickey.
Bjergsen goes right back
watch
towards
out.
though. He's
Oh,
got
man.
some farm he needs to pick up. Mithy will hang around with Sven to make sure he's not in too much trouble here.
Yeah. When I said it was a horror movie, a lot of it is this vision here. They don't have any vision in this jungle. Like Zoe, she could be anywhere.
Horror movies aren't scary in the daytimes, Irene. It's got to be dark.
Some of them are.
What kind of horror?
Maybe
I have
never
never seen a horror movie that's scary in the daytime. They just turn into memes. All right, maybe one day I'll see something like that. Maybe that'll make sense, but I don't know. You give me at least one good example.
Yeah, you're pretty Chad, so I guess.
And I will watch it in the middle of the day with the lights on. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'll find one for you.
Okay, that's what we're going to do sometime later. I'll report back to you all and see if Zyrene was right or if this is actually just one gigantic bamboozle like I think it is. But for the time being, TSM will continue maintaining a slight gold lead of around 2,000 compared to their opponents. They've had this for a little while. They haven't been able to build any more out of it, and now Golden Guardians will look to make the play underneath the Tier 1 turret of TSM, but Mickey's going to be delivered straight into the waiting maw of damage as he's shut down by Sven, and Golden Guardians aggro is immediately going to be turned around right back on him. Contracts and Matt trying to get themselves out of this one, but Bjergsen's in hot pursuit, and the damage comes through the paddle stars like a howitzer and blows him right off of the map as he'll continue providing even more damage now down onto Matt, who tries to walk away from the trap, does manage to sidestep it. Thick Skin's gonna block up that paddle star, and he'll get himself out. Now the Grig is coming around from the side. Oh, he just smites him like a minion.
Man, I feel so bad. He's like, I'm dodging everything. Dip, dab, dodge, boom. Gets out of the way, just navigates everything, and then it's like, dead.
Yeah. Chilling Smite is the sup smite. That's why I like it.
It's the anticlimactic ending there for him. But see this Mithy, great ultimate there. Catches Mickey in his tracks, gets the stun on him afterwards, and then they're just able to pump damage into him as Hauntzer arrives. And Bjergsen's there too. He's 5 men strong in the top side. Bjergsen got to pick up the flash, use it after the paddle star is thrown backwards, and then he's going to be able to just pick up another flash. Flashes after. And then he uses a real flash here. So 3 flashes in that one. A boop, boop, womp. There was an Ezreal ultimate too. That was fast to pick him up at the end.
Really wanted Matt to die, but honestly, that was another one of those plays. We talked about the first big play that TSM was able to do, turning things around onto contracts, right? When he tried to invade at level 6, saying, oh, this is classic TSM. They're punishing their opponents for being too aggressive. What was that? That was, again, punishing Golden Guardians for trying to force something way too hard.
Yeah, if TSM plays against a team that struggles later in the game or mid parts of the game, they usually find some success because if they're going to make proactive moves and TSM have a lead and the other team saying we have to get back into it, TSM loves those moves because all they have to do is collapse and react. And that's been one of their strengths, is just reacting to teams that are aggressive. But
Contracts taking a nap. Task knocks him right back. The damage continues pouring through. Subjugate will keep him alive for an extra second longer. Haunter grabs the kill into Lorlo off screen as Bjergsen goes on a rampage, getting the kill onto Contracts. 2 dead on the side of the Golden Guardians. Haunter now looks to escape the collapse from the Golden Guardians bottom lane. He'll go underneath the tier 1 turret, and the Tom Kench tongue seals his fate.
Yep. They get that kill, but Haunter got one, and now,
Meanwhile, though,
Bjergsen and the rest of the team on the Baron right now.
should have plenty of damage to finish this one off. Again, enemy jungler's dead.
Yeah.
They know that there's 2 bodies mid lane, 2 bodies dead. The only person that could interfere with this is Mickey, who's not in any sort of a place to try to contest 1 versus 4. TSM easily grabbed that objective.
And we've been seeing Contracts do well on things like he had Nocturne, Camille, Kindred in his last few games, Xin Zhao. The Trundle is a champion that isn't that aggressive for him, and playing it in this game, we're seeing what it looks like. And right there, oh, the red buff from Haunter is what finishes him off. And when Contracts picked off, like you said, exactly, they're going to go straight to the Baron and pick that up. Contracts has struggled in this game. Normally, when I've been watching Golden Guardian games, it's been everyone is struggling a little bit, and then Contracts is the one who's doing well. And he'll take that lead to bottom lane, and then Deftly and Matt do well. Here it's been everybody's kind of doing well without Contracts being involved too much, but he's the one who's dying in these fights. He's the one who's getting caught now, and that's 2 times in a row where he really is kind of getting the short end of the stick in these engages. And right there, he kind of just wandered into territory where they didn't have any kind of business being there. And on this Trundle, those mistakes are even worse because no flash and no mobility. Once you're caught by these champions like the Gragas or the Braum, you really are just locked down and you have to kind of waddle away or hope that your team is close.
Here's the test for TSM, Irene. This is where we'll get to answer some questions about this team. We've talked about how Golden Guardians have sort of played into their hands so far, but now's your chance. You've got Baron for 2 minutes. This is where you say, okay, we've learned how to put the pedal to the metal and take advantages, build those, snowball those, find something to do and make a call, which is what everyone wants this team to do. If they can accomplish that here, I will see that as real improvement.
Yeah, I think TSM, like, honestly, I feel like they almost have this game in the bag because they're 8,000 gold up, and composition-wise, the poke that they have, there isn't really a really good tank to kind of take the brunt of the damage, stand in front of these 2 penetration items, Zoe Qs that are coming out. And the split push isn't working either. So we talked about like a big AP Kennen ultimate. It's a AD Kennen that doesn't even have priority over the top lane. I believe Lorlo is 2 levels down. Correction, he is 3 levels down over Haunter. Oof. So he's not winning the split push. He's losing it by 60 CS. And so all kind of the win conditions for Golden Guardians are being locked out here. It kind of comes down to Mickey and Deftly having enough damage. But at this point in the game, they have to find the right engage. And the composition's not really geared towards that. It's more defensive from both sides.
TSM will continue their push here in the bottom side. Trouble Bubble flies out over the wall, will not find its way onto anyone. Battlestar also going to miss there onto Deftly. True Shot Barrage does find some damage there on the back end, as TSM have now taken down every turret outside of the enemy base. We talk about needing to be decisive and needing to make calls. Well, breaking into the enemy base is where you can really show off those skills as TSM mounts up the push in earnest here on the bottom side. Killer comes down from Contracts. We're going to shut that down as Bjergsen does land the Trouble Bubble down onto Contracts. Matt doing a good job keeping him safe, but I can't say the same thing for the turret, which is now going to be taken down. Mickey forced to flash away as the Golden Guardians are in full retreat. Lorlo will look to hold the mid lane away from Grig, but it's bottom side that has already been busted open, and Golden Guardians are starting to lose everything.
Yep, lost that bottom inhib. Mid inhib is one that they could potentially go for, but the Baron buff is wearing out in 15 seconds. It looks like they want to reset while they still have those empowered recalls. Clear out the jungle, take everything. There's not a scrap left at all in the top side jungle for Golden Guardians to clean up here. And that's a feels bad man for Contracts. Level 12, 2 levels down, can't get anything. Nothing is left for him here.
And the horror movie only becomes more real now as you're this far behind against the pick potential of Zoe and Gragas. Everything on your side of the map is just dark. Golden Guardians controls nothing. They barely have control in their own base now that that inhibitor is down as well, and you've just got to be so cautious. One step too far. Just one little movement into a brush that might be warded. Somebody's dead, and TSM's knocking on the Nexus.
Yep. And TSM, they're gearing up for that right now. Almost 10,000 gold lead for themselves. The Mountain Drake is coming up big for them in these pushes. They don't have to spend as much time on these turrets. Middle and top, they're going to just kind of janitorial duty on these waves, shove them out, and I feel like they've already got their item spikes that they need and want There's nothing coming up for a while, so yeah, they get to just focus on pushing and controlling vision. So right now, it's control mid-wave, control scuttle, control the top side jungle, and get wards down there. So you're going to expect to see Mithy and Grig kind of team up here and push up. Yeah, that's what it is. Top wave shoved in. Put down the wards so that they can continue pushing later. And this is the setup for how TSM are going to try to close the game. Golden Guardians are going to try to stop that from happening. This is kind of where they have to do a little bit of resistance.
They're putting down these wards, but they're not staying alive for any amount of time at all. It just goes right back to that perfect dark state where there's nothing that Golden Guardians can do to try to resist it. They've got to wait for TSM to come in and hope that they make a mistake. Hope that Bjergsen Zoe or Sven's Ezreal put themselves in a spot where Golden Guardians can maybe collapse with a nice slicing Maelstrom, because aside from a big TSM error, I don't see a way Golden Guardians force out a team fight.
Yeah, and even when you're an AD Kennen, it is a stark contrast to when you're an AP Kennen. The ultimate is a very brief stun. It's more the damage when you're AP, and he's pretty much itemized full AD. He doesn't have, he doesn't even have 2 items. He's looking at the Rage Blade after the Blade of Ruin King, but hasn't gotten there. So Lorlo very far behind in terms of curve, where everybody else is at like 3 items in terms of carries on the side of TSM.
And I mean, I want to go back to the point that I mentioned when we saw Lorlo get dived onto the tier 1 turret. So much of Kennen, so many of the times you see a big Kennen play, is ulti plus stasis into the middle without even a stopwatch. Let's say the man gets into 5 people and does find a big ulti, and then Zoe hits him and he dies.
He's not getting out, yeah.
Yeah, there's no way out of there, which just means it has to be that much more perfect, and I just don't know how you can find that opportunity as Golden Guardians right now. TSM will continue just maintaining pressure for now, but not really going for anything. They seem to be pretty content waiting for the next Baron.
This is where you play and you go, okay, well, TSM, this is where they get the passive kind of title, where instead of shoving up the waves, shoving up both, and playing for that middle part of the top side, they're doing that while getting Mountain Drake. They're like, okay, we did this. 30 seconds on Mountain Drake. Okay, pivot the plan. We're going for Mountain Drake now. Okay, and now they're going to go back to the top side and look for Baron, but the question is, can they do Baron without getting a pick ahead of time? Then you put the 50-50s on the table. So they're going to like control vision, push waves, and try to make it so that Golden Guardians are hesitant to contest them at a Baron while they have 2 Mountain Drakes.
Well, a 9,000 gold lead, as well as just the composition that they have with the pick potential, you would think that TSM would be able to force this here. Golden Guardians, of course, will do everything they can to stop that. They've got to recognize that giving away this Baron leads the game.
Yeah, Bjergsen has almost no mana. He has the blue buff, so it's going to charge up a bit here.
Double bubble goes down, lands on the ground, not really a whole lot just yet. Mickey going to be taken down to about half HP thanks to Paddle Star. Monster still looking to chase these guys down. Golden Guardians trying to disengage. Sleepy Trouble Bubble makes its way down into Contract, who does get devoured up by Matt. Going to be kept safely thanks to that, as Golden Guardians will get away this time. But look at TSM. Yeah, you used True Shot Barrage. And you did use the Gragas ultimate. I guess you've got that down now as well for the next... That can't be a long cooldown. Nah, about 60 more seconds.
Yeah, and they're just going to clean vision, look towards the Baron, start it up, potentially pick, but they have 2 Mountain Drakes. They're just toying with this. This is kind of a setup, a bait, and Golden Guardians.
I think he's losing a lot of HP very rapidly. Sven's Ezreal, a real damage threat here. It's not just about Bjergsen anymore. Red Inhibitor respawns in the bottom side as TSM stay committed to the Baron. And Golden Guardians will concede this objective. They decide to make their stand in the base.
Yep. TSM were able to kind of chip them out, and that was only 2 people on the Baron for the majority of that. The other 3 were in the bush, kind of playing pick duty. Yeah, see, I saw your face when you're like, he's going to full clear this wave.
Yeah,
no.
I was expecting, nope, cash money gold explosion.
Nope.
Didn't get it.
You got the max W first, too. It's AD, it's not AP.
Well, that was certainly less satisfying than I was hoping for, but Golden Guardians now have a 10,000 gold deficit. They now have TSM coming after them with yet another Baron buff. The second one that they've had this game, which means it is powered up as well. TSM, lots of items on these carries too. The Void Staff completed on the Zoe, another needlessly large rod in the inventory. If you look at the Ezreal, QSS, Blade of the Ruined King, fully stacked Muramana, Trinity Force, these guys will put so much into this team that, like you said, Zyrene, does not have a true tank to absorb it. You've got a Trundle with a Cinder Hulk and a Spirit Visage, what's going to happen when that Blade of the Ruined King Ezreal starts landing Qs?
Ooh, pretty sure he's gonna die?
That would be correct, sir.
Okay.
That would be correct. Even the
I
pride.
got that one, but I feel like even when he takes a bubble like this, it's like he's gonna take some damage afterwards. The minions in the way. The turrets are just slowly dropping, and also Hanser's doing work in mid at the same time.
It's what you mentioned. The split push situation does not favor Lorlo, only having just completed his second item with the Ginsu's Rage Blade, trying to deal with 3.5 item Gnar that now has a Bramble Vest as well, so Lorlo can't get a lot out of his lifesteal.
Yeah, he's had that Bramble Vest very early too. As soon as he saw that the Blade of the Ruined King was what was coming through, so he just shut down Lorlo right quick.
TSM, they want that inhibitor. Golden Guardians can't get anywhere near it. Contract's going to be taken down to 1/3. Inhibitor already gone. Inhibitor turret mid lane also out of there. Remember, the bottom lane inhib has respawned, so TSM still have to knock down 2 more to totally control everything on the map. Golden Guardians give up number 2. You practically have to fight for this one, Zyrene.
Yep. This from TSM has been a controlled, methodical, slow game once they got a lead off of Bjergsen in the mid, playing alongside Greg and invading a little bit. And this, for TSM fans, is kind of what you want to see, where it's like, oh, no risk of a throw. Even though it's slow, they aren't putting themselves in this gigantic... It's granted, it's still that passive play style, but it's one that's more pressing as opposed to lofty, I would say.
Lofty.
Yeah, just kind of sitting around or aloof.
Head in the clouds, just having a good time.
Yeah, kind of letting the game happen. TSM are saying the game is happening to Golden Guardians right now.
We are the game.
Exactly.
TSM, as now they've got themselves a spot where you would think that the next push is the end. 45 seconds remain on the Baron buff. By the time they get in position and actually near the enemy base, that will likely be completely worn off if only a couple seconds remaining. So they should not need it, however.
Yes.
When you have 2 super minions in each lane, when you have such an incredible gold advantage, you need to be able to close.
And they're all pretty much synced in terms of all those inhibitors died at about the same time. 1, 2, 3, straight from the top to the bottom. And I don't feel like you need a third Mountain Drake to end the game. Now, granted, I am not TSM, so they may feel differently than I do. But we'll see what they decide to do in this next minute. I feel like this is one where you just full court press 5-man in the lane. After kind of grouping, after kind of like pushing one lane, you can see Sven is the one pushing mid because he's safe on the Ezreal, has QSS, has flash. Easy to kind of maneuver, and you just push mid and you push top, and then you just try to go for the victory here. There's only 2 turrets in your way, and you have 2 Mountain Drakes.
I want to point out something really important there. Bjergsen's Luden's Echo was super useful because all he had to do was slam the Paddle Star into a minion near Mickey to pop the Banshee's Veil, because the Luden's proc would do the dirty work for him. A nice Sleepy Trouble Bubble down into Mickey, going to immediately force out the Devour from Matt. Nexus turret number 1 is already gone. Golden Guardians have to pull the trigger immediately if they want to stand any chance fighting for this Nexus. It's already going to be exposed. Lorlo's able to find an ult, but it's not going to do anything. The health bar's not even touched. Golden Guardians will be eviscerated on the stairs to their own fountain as TSM will push straight for the Nexus. They'll finish them off at the very end. The resurrection coming through. Guardian Angel going to be proc, but TSM take the win.
A much-needed victory there for TSM. After dropping into FlyQuest and Cloud9 and having an 0-2 week, they bounced back against Golden Guardians. And it was very TSM favored from start to finish ever since Bjergsen started getting rolling. He just kind of dictated the pace of the game with his Zoe.
1, 2, 3.
It wasn't flashy. It wasn't a crazy, over-the-top climactic battle, but it was TSM showcasing the discipline to play to a style that, if nothing else, they know how to win with against an opponent that was not well equipped to deal with that strategy. I want to go back to draft as well. I cannot praise enough putting the cookie cutters back in the drawer, because banning that Heimerdinger against a team that has found so much good work with it, I think was great. It put Golden Guardians in a spot where they weren't comfortable. It made them force plays, and those forces played right into TSM's hand.
Yeah, and they first picked that Zoe for Bjergsen. There was the Trundle, and then also the fact that they picked the Varus and Tahm Kench, and there wasn't really the mid lane counter pick. And you saw Mickey, he did a good job of going to side lanes. It just has to be more than that in the early parts of the game, in the mid game, or else TSM, with the lead that they got from Bjergsen, were able to spread that around and kind of just shove down the mid lane. They got the first turret in that lane. They were able to rotate that to another turret and really did just kind of control it from start to finish off the invades.
And back to the Bjergsen tweet again. I want to go back to home base, right where we started. Bjergsen said, we have to turn it around now. And quite honestly, that's true. We're getting to the point where we're in the last couple of weeks of regular play now. You've got to secure a playoff spot in a league where, honestly, it's a really close race. Every single win, especially up against a team like Golden Guardians, which, remember, coming into this game was at the exact same match record as TSM, is so important.
Yeah, and 5-7, bottom of the standings is what you're looking at there, because Clutch were there at the bottom with 4-8, and so, or 4-9, I believe. And so now you're going, well, we don't want to fall down. We don't want to stay at the bottom, because if Golden Guardians leapfrog you, those standings are still relatively close. Only 6 teams make it to playoffs, and now they have 5 more games to play. So everyone does matter so much.
And for TSM, it's not just about getting the win to make sure you're in the right spot for the standings, too. It's a morale boost. Yes. Coming off of a 0-2 week for a team that's used to always sitting at the top of the standings in the North American LCS ever since their inception, you need to break that and get back to a spot where you have that confidence again.
And this has been a history-making split for TSM, because they have had 3 0-2 weeks this split. Throughout 2015 to 2017, they had 3 throughout those 3 years in terms of 0-2 weeks. So this has been pretty much the worst split they've had on record in terms of week-to-week performance, and this is where they need to turn it around if they want to keep that TSM power of old.
Well, they've started it with a win here today, and to hear more about how they picked up that win, let's throw it over to the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. 2 teams tied in the standings at 5-7 coming into this game. Every win important for them in their race for a playoff spot. TSM, though, the team to come out on top and be victorious, they had said themselves, it is now or never. And this game felt a lot more like now than never.
Yeah, and it looked like a classic TSM game, and I know we sometimes overuse that statement because it's not just the draft or it's not just the passive play style. The TSM that has been good actually has good solo lane play, and that's what catalyzes their game. And I think that's what happened here. We saw Bjergsen pushing up mid a lot, and we actually saw Hanser pushing up top lane a lot, and they generated advantages.
Yeah, and I think it goes a little bit back to the draft. I mean, look at Hanser's 4% this game. This is when he gets counterpicked, and he has insane forward percentage this game. And this is, I went back and watched it, and there was just no trading early on by Lorlo to pressure. He ate a lot of boomerangs, which is well played by Hanser. And then even though there was a lot of vision control in the first 4 levels for the Kennen, didn't amount to anything, and then once Hanser got control of the lane, he never gave it up.
Yeah, and specifically a lot of TSM's problems this split, the summer average there for Hanser is below the average of top laners by a pretty wide margin, and so is Bjergsen in the mid lane. And I believe both of those guys had very high percentages this game, and that's a small part of winning the game. You can be pushed up and get ganked.
Right.
You can be pushed up and not apply any pressure, but they were kind of doing both this game.
I would actually argue that in this game, it's actually a pretty huge deal that your last pick counter pick that's supposed to win the matchup and set you up for a 1-3-1, falls 30 CS behind and is then under his turret for this whole rest of the laning phase is actually a disaster. It's one of those things that's like, oh man, it wasn't a 5-4-0 bot dive ace, but like, that's your whole game plan falling apart in front of your eyes. And
right, but kind of shoring up your point there, Jad, the idea that, once again, the summer average being low for Bjergsen, but in this game, more than doubling what his average had been in terms of forward percentage. It also, to me, kind of keys into this idea that if we talk about TSM as always being the reactive team, the very passive or reactive play style that they play, well, if you've got forward percentage, it also means or suggests to me that you have lane priority in which you can actually go help and be reactive.
Right, I think that's the big thing is when we say it's classic TSM, it's the same game plan that we expect out of them. Strong solo lanes, and here there's a play being made on this bot side. The other team is actually the one pulling the trigger, but Bjerg cancels his recall and instead decides to go roam topside. And this is why that fact that the counter pick was losing is so big to me, is because, all right, your play works on the bot side. Your Kennen should not be stuck underneath his turret getting dove here, and that's a big problem and a great punish by TSM, the fact that they did not just recall and go for the overly passive play. They reactively went for an aggressive play.
And they also executed the dive properly and burned Kennen's ult and flash. And if we compare
Bjerg's damage
of play, Bjerg was insane this game on Zoe. Small aside, I actually thought Bjergsen played Zoe a little differently than other players were.
How so?
Other times I see a lot of Zoes land a very long range sleep and then go too much for the max damage on the paddle star and miss the sleep or miss the paddle star by a fraction. I almost never saw Bjergsen miss his paddle star, and that was with short, quick paddle stars. to catch the very end of the sleep duration.
Right.
Or to have just enough range to get it there.
Not
It was
maximizing
really
the
good.
damage, but maximizing the
accuracy.
accuracy of it, and therefore being able to force people out and keep control of the game.
Yeah, but the other point I wanted to make about this game speaks off that replay. The last time Golden Guardians beat TSM, and one of the best things Golden Guardians does as a team is 4-man bot dives, right? They crushed TSM with that last time. But the difference was they had 2 solo lanes pushed in, got the 4-man bot dive, got the turret, and TSM could do nothing. Here, they already had the mid lane turret down. They got the top laner dead. They got the top lane turret down. And then it doesn't matter that the other team crashed 4 bottom because you're reacting aggressively instead of reacting passively.
Right, it continued all game long. Contracts lost his flash once, goes in for an invade, Bjerg punished that. There was a time that the other team went for a turret dive with no minion wave. Mickey gets popped instantly. Like, I think Golden Guardians had a lot of mistakes this game, but it was good to see that TSM was being the aggressor and kind of forcing a lot of those mistakes with how forward they were in their lanes.
A very solid victory for TSM here in Game 5 on day 1 of Week 7. If we pull up the standings, though, we see that the Spring Split champions Team Liquid currently have sole possession of first, with 100 Thieves and Echo Fox sitting 1 win behind them in second, while Cloud9 holds 6th alongside TSM. With his win today, though, Sneaky becomes the first player to hit 200 regular season wins in the North American LCS, and he's done it with a 67.6% win rate.
That's pretty good.
More than 2/3 of his games. You can see right here, there's Bjergsen with about a fraction higher win rate, 20 wins behind him, and Haunter right down at the bottom as well as competing with Sneaky's win rate. But
When it
that's,
comes to win rate, absolutely.
yeah, I mean, we talked about it the whole day, actually. The C9s and TSMs, the history of success these guys have had, trying to get it back this split because it hasn't been that way.
Only one player on this list is not currently playing in the NALCS, and that would be Expecial, who's on stage with Golden Guardians
Yeah, can
as
his
a
wins
coach.
still count when he's on stage? You just keep racking them up?
Right. Wild Turtle, it's important to note that he is very close to also hitting that same benchmark, so we'll continue to track that for FlyQuest through the end of the split because he very much has the ability to do so with their remaining games.
Yeah, but it's still going to be tough. He needs to win 2 of the next 5, I believe. And,
Exactly.
I mean, it's a really neck-and-neck race, so it actually could be harder than we think to break the 200 mark.
Might come on the last day of the split. That'd be fun. But with those wins today, I want to see how your predictions went. We take those.
My goodness!
He called it out. He goes, I don't think I've had a 5-0, and then he comes in hot with the 5-0 today.
Said I was going to do it, and I did it.
I did it.
I also said 32 other teams would win games when they didn't.
Right.
So we're even.
The most important thing is that we beat the fans. Like,
Yeah.
They had a good, lucky day against us last week. We clearly demonstrated you don't know what you're talking about.
I wonder what the total. I wonder what the total is across those 2 days, because they were 5-0 and then
5-0.
I think I had a 1 and
so
4 day and a 4 and 1 day, and they had a 5-0 and a 2 and
2 and 3.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah,
were
they're
7
still
and
better
3.
than me, but
they're still better than Mark.
let's not get into the
I had
details.
a really bad Sunday
Get in the weeds.
Yeah.
with predictions.
Alrighty, well, let's see what we have coming up tomorrow in our schedule, presented by Jersey Mike's. First up, Team Liquid looks to hold on to first place versus FlyQuest, with Cloud9 facing Counterlogic Gaming for Game 2. Freak, Wild Turtle, and JJ will be bringing you Echo Fox versus TSM from the NALCS Lounge on Riot Games 2. And now I know what you're thinking. But Dash, I need more LCS now. Well, don't worry, because as soon as we sign off, the EU LCS broadcast goes live for your viewing pleasure. But now for myself, the casters, and the entire live broadcast crew, thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow for more of the NALCS. Good night.
Probably in the 1v2. Can he survive the first matchup? Takes the first handshake in stride. The second one.
Oh, it's a shutdown.
Leaves him hanging.
Rejection.
I mean, they can Mundo here. I think Syndra is really not great.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Now's hard. Now's hard.
And almost going down, and he does burn. Cody Sun's gonna fall as well. The Malefic Visions.
You got this. I mean,
Ryu burns QSS. He's gonna stay just maybe alive. No, he does burn down.
Now's hard. Kane, stop putting me on this dog champ, please. Kane, stop, Kane, stop. Now's hard.
Marjar. Kindred Marjar.
I think this is good. I think this is better.
I'm planting over with him. I have a flash. I can jump. Go. Flash. I'm E1. We can get Trundle. I'm gonna push a bit. Where's top catch?
Golden Guardians will be eviscerated on the stairs to their own fountain as TSM will push straight for the Nexus.
They're split. This is. Peel back. I stun all of them. Nice.
Jimmy, Keen can't find anybody with the shockwave. Dokla's able to find the kill onto him. The damage continues pouring through.
I hit the mania.
I got you, bro. I got you. You can fit extra, I'll give you heal.
Nice teamwork, guys.
Find the revives and find the team, find the flash forward the bomb. Jensen, will he find the stun? Not quite gonna get Apollo, but 2 HP, he will finally burn.
Stay on him, I can eat him.
I need some help.
He's dead. Don't worry, dude. I got the fat bounce.
Chill.
Bam. Let's go, boys.
Good job, guys.
Cloud9 looking good. 4-1 on the lineup.
No, we can go here. I'm on Kindred. Nice, he's got it. Cho, look at Ryze on the side, okay? Cho. Go to Nash after, Nice.
Stun not gonna land him, doesn't find another ring. Oh, they blow him up 5v4 to Zoni's Papa Hui. Can this be the turnaround? A lot of burst in. They've knocked out. Sonic is gone, but a double kill anyway. Beast comes in, and Darshan grabs it, but he's not gonna survive this. The Romark will just not quite grab him.
Oh, there's so many creeps in their base. We won. God damn, dude. Holy. Go.
Echo Fox get another win here, and what a game that was.